The Crystal Lake Encounter. Jaden Cross's exploration vessel settled onto Aurelies, a planet of crystalline forests and floating lakes. He'd been mapping star systems for 5 years, never staying long enough to call anywhere home. The luminescent grass swayed as he approached a lake suspended 3 meters above ground, held by gravitational anomalies. A woman stood at the water's edge, gathering light flowers. Her movements were graceful, and when she turned, Jaden forgot how to breathe. Her eyes held storm-silver depths, and her skin seemed to glow with the planet's own luminescence. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said, somehow aware of his presence. "Extraordinary," he managed. They talked for hours. She asked about worlds he'd seen. He described ice canyons and singing deserts. She spoke of Aurelies with genuine love, how the forest sang during meteor showers, how every season brought new light patterns. "You speak about this place like it's alive," Jaden said. "Everything is alive, in its way." The words left his mouth before he could stop them. "You're the most radiant being I've ever seen across 100 worlds." Her expression shifted, vulnerable, surprised, almost pained. "You should be careful speaking so freely to strangers." "Should I? Why?" She pressed a crystal fragment into his palm, her fingers warm against his. "Because words have power. Especially honest ones." A distant horn echoed through the forest. Her posture changed instantly, becoming formal. "I should go. Will I see you again?" She smiled sadly. "That depends on many things. My name is Seraphine." She disappeared between the crystal trees, leaving Jaden alone with questions and a warm crystal in his hand. The revelation. 3 royal vessels descended the next morning, armed guards emerging. Their commander, Torin, demanded to know if Jaden had seen anyone, a woman, alone, dark hair. "Records mean nothing when the Queen is missing," Torin snapped. "Queen." The word hung in the air. Seraphine emerged from the forest, transformed. Her posture was impeccable, distant, every movement controlled. "Commander Torin, stand down. There is no emergency." The guards dropped to their knees. "Your Majesty." Jaden watched in shock as the woman from yesterday became someone else entirely. Regal, untouchable, wearing authority like armor. Her eyes flickered to him briefly, and he saw the mask crack for just a moment. "You are the cartographer, Jaden Cross," she said formally. "The palace would benefit from your expertise. You'll have full access to our archives." At the palace, Myra, the Queen's advisor, explained everything. "Seraphine has ruled for 8 years. She's brilliant, compassionate, and profoundly lonely. When you're born to power, people stop being honest. Every word becomes calculated. You become a symbol." Myra leaned forward. "Yesterday, you told her she was radiant not because of her title, but because you genuinely saw her. Your words were honest. Unfiltered. That's why it mattered." Myra revealed that Seraphine was in the Eastern Observatory, alone. She spent 8 years being what everyone needs her to be. Perhaps what she needs now is someone brave enough to be honest, even when honesty is complicated. Dawn arrived in pearl and lavender, twin suns casting long shadows. Marcus woke to find Zaria watching him, tenderness mixed with worry in her expression. "You were speaking my language in your sleep," she said softly. "Perfect sentences, perfect accent." Marcus felt the truth settle into his bones. The integration is accelerating. "Yes." She sat up, pulling the blanket around herself. "Marcus, you have a life on Earth. Career, possibly family, friends. I cannot ask you to abandon everything for something we barely understand." He took her hand. "You're not asking. I'm chosen. You've been here less than a week." "Stop," Marcus said firmly. "Yes, I have Ryland's tactical knowledge and memories. But what I feel for you is mine. My heart races because you're brilliant and fierce and hide poetry beneath armor. Because you command with authority but treat your soldiers with genuine care. Because when you truly smile, it's like watching stars being born." A genuine smile broke across her face even as tears gathered. "You should have been a poet." "Maybe I'm both now." Her comm unit chirped urgently. Thornvale here. Commander, the Tavrian Collective is requesting negotiations. They're asking specifically for someone with Captain Rylan Thornvale's diplomatic credentials. Marcus and Zaria locked eyes. Tell them we'll send a representative in 1 hour, Marcus said. I'll handle it. The negotiation was held via holographic projection. Marcus stood before the reptilian Tavrians and felt knowledge unfurl in his mind like a forgotten map. He referenced conversations he'd never had, recalled compromises negotiated before his arrival, understood cultural significance behind every gesture. When a new treaty was signed 2 hours later, preventing further bloodshed, the Tavrian diplomat bowed slightly. The captain's wisdom lives on. Whether echo or rebirth, we honor what remains. After they disconnected, Zaria turned to him. You saved countless lives with knowledge you shouldn't have. But at what cost to yourself? How much of Marcus remains? All of me, he insisted. I have access to Ryland's memories and skills, but my compassion, my desire to heal, that's still me. I'm not disappearing. I'm expanding. He covered her hands with his. And I'm choosing to become it here, with you. They'll call you back to Earth. I'll resign. Request colonial assignment. There are ways. He pulled her close. I'm not just Rylan reborn or only Marcus anymore. I'm something new. And that person loves you with everything he is. The Heart's Rebellion. The formal announcement came 3 days later. Queen Seraphine would meet Prince Darian of Kelthros to discuss the marriage alliance. The palace erupted in preparation. Banquets, diplomatic protocols, ceremonial arrangements. Jaden tried to focus on his mapping work, but the archives felt suffocating. He saw Seraphine only in passing, always surrounded by advisors, always wearing that untouchable mask. Once, their eyes met across a crowded hall, and the longing in her gaze nearly broke him. The night before Prince Darian's arrival, Jaden found a crystal message sphere outside his door, a common Aurelian communication method. Seraphine's voice emerged, barely above a whisper, Eastern Gardens. Midnight. Please. The gardens defied gravity itself, pathways that spiraled upward through floating terraces, flowers that bloomed in the aurora's light. Seraphine waited by a fountain where water flowed in impossible directions, still wearing her formal gown from the evening's council session. I can't do this, she said without preamble. I stood before the council today and said all the right words about duty and political necessity. But all I could think about was how none of them have ever asked what I want. They speak of my happiness as if it's a pleasant side effect of good governance. Jaden pulled her close. Then what do you want? I want to be selfish. I want nights in the observatory. I want someone who sees me, not my crown. She looked up at him, tears catching starlight. I want you. But tomorrow, Prince Darian arrives, and I'll have to smile and pretend to consider a future that feels like slow suffocation. Then don't. It's not that simple. Isn't it? He cupped her face in both hands. You're the queen. You make the rules. What if you just chose differently? The council would never accept. Seraphine. He said her name like a prayer. What if you stopped asking permission to want something? She kissed him fiercely, desperately, and he responded with equal intensity. They stumbled backward into a private alcove draped with flowering vines, hidden from any passing guards. Her fingers worked at the fastenings of his shirt while his hands traced the curves barely concealed by silk. Tell me to stop, he breathed against her neck, and I will. Don't stop. Don't ever stop seeing me. They came together with the urgency of people running out of time, of two souls desperate to prove they were real to each other. In that hidden garden alcove, beneath alien stars and impossible flowers, a queen allowed herself to be simply a woman, and a wanderer discovered he'd been searching for exactly this, not a place, but a person. Afterward, they lay tangled together on soft moss that glowed faintly with their warmth. Seraphine traced patterns on his chest. I've made my decision. About the marriage. About everything. She propped herself up, and he saw iron determination beneath the softness. Tomorrow, when Prince Darian arrives, I'll be courteous. Diplomatic. And then I'll tell him, and the council, that I'm choosing my own path. They'll fight you. Let them. I've spent 8 years being the queen they needed. It's time I became the queen I need to be. She kissed him softly. Will you stay? Not just tonight, but, stay? Learn Auralis's ways? Help me figure out how to make this work. Jaden pulled her closer, breathing in the scent of light flowers in her hair. I've been running for 5 years because I was afraid of exactly this, finding something worth staying for. But Seraphine, you're not just worth staying for. You're worth building a life with. They stayed until dawn painted the sky, making promises and plans, 2 people deciding that some rules were meant to be rewritten. A new constellation. The throne room of Auralise had never been so tense. Prince Darian stood tall and diplomatic, clearly confused by the sudden assembly. The council filled the galleries, whispering urgently. Commander Turin looked deeply uncomfortable in his formal position. Seraphine entered alone, wearing the full regalia of her office, the crystal crown that caught and multiplied light, robes that seemed woven from Aurora itself. She looked every inch the sovereign, untouchable and powerful. But Jaden, standing among the crowd of courtiers, saw the slight tremor in her hands before she clasped them together. He saw the deep breath she took before speaking. He saw the woman beneath the crown, gathering courage. Prince Darian of Kelthros, she began, her voice carrying through the hall. You honor us with your presence. The alliance between our systems would bring prosperity and security. The council has made compelling arguments for this union. Darian bowed. Your Majesty is gracious. I hope we might. However, Seraphine continued, and the words sliced through protocol like a blade, I must respectfully decline. The throne room erupted. Council members shouted over each other. Turin's hand moved to his weapon instinctively, though there was no threat. Only Prince Darian remained calm, a slight smile playing at his lips as if he'd expected exactly this. Seraphine raised her hand, and silence fell, proof of her authority, even in rebellion. For 8 years, I have served Auralise above all else. I have negotiated treaties, restructured economies, and made decisions that kept our people safe and prosperous. I have never asked for anything for myself. Her eyes found Jaden in the crowd. Until now. She descended from the throne, removing her crown, a gesture that sent shockwaves through the assembly. I have fallen in love with a man who sees me not as a political asset, but as a person. Who values my thoughts before my title. Who reminds me that a queen who denies her own humanity cannot fully understand her people's. Your Majesty, an elderly councillor sputtered, you cannot simply. Cannot what? Choose my own partner? Live my own life? Her voice rang with steel. I have given everything to this throne. I will continue to serve Auralise with my whole heart. But I will do so as a complete person, not a hollow symbol. Myra stepped forward from her position among the advisors. The Queen's wisdom has guided us through crises that would have broken other rulers. Perhaps we should trust that wisdom extends to her personal life. Other voices joined hers, younger council members, progressive advisors, even some of the military commanders. The tide was shifting. Prince Darian finally spoke, his voice amused. Your Majesty, I must confess, I'm relieved. I came here out of duty, not desire. To witness a queen with the courage to choose her own path? That's far more valuable than any political alliance. He bowed deeply. Kelthros will support your decision. Perhaps Auralise might teach other systems that strength includes the freedom to follow one's heart. Seraphine's eyes widened, then she smiled, genuine and bright. You honor us, Prince Darian. The council continued debating, but the battle was already won. Seraphine crossed the throne room to where Jaden stood, and took his hand in front of everyone. Jaden Cross, she said formally, though her eyes sparkled with private joy, will you accept the position of Royal Consort Advisor? You'll learn our ways, support our rule without overshadowing our sovereignty, and help us remember that connection, not isolation, is what makes leadership meaningful. He should have been terrified. He should have wanted to run. Instead, he squeezed her hand and spoke loud enough for the entire assembly to hear. I spent 5 years mapping the galaxy, looking for something I couldn't name. It was always you. It was always this. He turned to address the crowd. I'm just a wanderer who knows how to read stars. But I'll spend the rest of my life learning to read this world, if it means standing beside her. The throne room slowly filled with cautious approval, then genuine celebration. Turin approached, still looking uncomfortable but resigned. The Queen's happiness is paramount, he said stiffly, then added more quietly, and I've never seen her smile like this. That evening, they stood together on the palace's highest balcony. The twin suns were setting, painting Aurelies in colors that defied description. Seraphine leaned against Jaden, his arms wrapped around her waist. What happens now? He asked. Now? We figure it out as we go. We'll make mistakes. The council will continue questioning every decision. Some will never accept you. She turned in his arms, looking up at him. But we'll face it together. And when it gets difficult, we'll come back to this, to us, to what's real beneath all the politics and protocol. I can live with that. Can you? Truly? No more wandering, no more freedom to leave when things get complicated. Jaden looked out at the crystalline forests, the floating lakes, the aurora beginning its nightly dance across the sky. But mostly he looked at the woman in his arms, brilliant, courageous, no longer hiding behind her crown. I've been free my whole life, he said. Turns out freedom isn't the same as belonging. And I finally belong somewhere. He kissed her forehead. I belong with you. Above them, the stars emerged one by one, the same stars he'd mapped for years while searching for meaning. But now they looked different, not destinations to catalogue and abandon, but witnesses to something worth staying for. Two souls from different worlds, creating their own constellation. A queen who chose love without sacrificing duty. A wanderer who found home in a person rather than a place. And beneath the impossible beauty of Aurelius's night sky, they held each other and watched new stars appear, knowing that the best maps are the ones you make together, charting not just worlds, but the vast territory of two hearts learning to navigate as one.